Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation, I'm proud to say, is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend Bob Fabian Zinka.
Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If you need to develop into a better leader, this podcast is for you. If you want to achieve a greater level of success, this podcast is for you. His mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell, said it best: everything rises and falls on leadership. We hope to inspire you today and provide you with an insight that has the potential to positively impact the trajectory of your life. Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast.
Imagine gaining the leadership skills that could redefine your career. Join Coach BZ on the Leadership and Success Podcast, where each episode delivers practical insights from world-class speakers, military leaders, and industry experts. We dive deep into what matters most: building resilient teams, leading through uncertainty, and navigating complexity with clarity and confidence. Every conversation is crafted for aspiring leaders like you who are ready to grow, lead, and make a lasting impact. Don't miss our powerful live sessions and recent highlights. Michelle Hayward on building diverse, high-performing technical teams. Ann Leslie on leading through global complexity and cybersecurity risk. Ron Carpenter AI exploring faith, resilience, and AI-powered leadership. Colonel Michelle G.I. Gardner-Ince on commanding influence from the battlefield to the boardroom. Chris Robinson on shifting from drift to drive in life and leadership. And Coach Enrique Acosta Gonzalez on mentorship, legacy, and heart-centered leadership. Ready to level up your leadership journey? Tune in on Spotify, Apple, Audible Podcasts, YouTube Live, and LinkedIn Live. Join the movement toward leadership excellence. Listen now and start transforming your success. What if your next keynote speaker could bridge the worlds of national defense, Silicon Valley innovation, and global leadership? Meet Bob Fabian, BZ Zinga, award-winning keynote speaker, U.S. Navy Information Warfare Commander, and trusted executive in technology, leadership, and strategy. With over 20 years of proven leadership in the U.S. Department of Defense, the U.S. Navy, higher education, and the high-tech sector, from startups to Fortune 500 companies, BZ delivers keynote experiences that inspire, challenge, and equip leaders for real-world impact. BZ speaks with authority on cybersecurity and national security, strategies to safeguard critical assets in an age of constant threat, artificial intelligence and emerging technology, how to innovate responsibly while staying ahead of disruption, leadership and corporate governance, building resilient, ethical, and high-performance organizations in any environment. Every keynote blends military precision, Silicon Valley agility, and boardroom strategy, delivering practical takeaways that leaders can apply immediately. Audiences leave inspired, informed, and ready to lead with clarity and courage. Whether you're hosting a global conference, corporate summit, or leadership retreat, book BZ to energize your event and empower your audience to lead in a rapidly changing world.
Hello, everyone. This is Coach BZ, and today is August the 13th. Thank you so much for being with me today. Today, I'm going to be talking about a subject that is very important to me. I'm going to share my screen now. It's an article I have written, and I've written quite a lot of article about the subject. I care deeply about this. I'm going to be talking about leading with inclusivity. So a guide for Navy officer and tech leader. I believe that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are very important core values. For myself, I think my country as well, right? The motto for America is E pluribus unum, out of many, one. So And I also know that diverse teams are a lot more performant than teams that are not. So that is just a scientific fact. I've also written another article, Embracing Diversity and Inclusion, a cybersecurity leader's journey, and also on diversity and inclusion in cybersecurity and technology in the US cybersecurity magazine. And I also sit on a couple of boards whose mission is to increase diversity in technology. So let's just say that it is a very, very important subject for me. So today we're going to be covering how to champion respect and fairness in every action, practical ways to address unconscious bias, and build psychological safety. That's an environment where people feel safe to speak up. They feel safe to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, where they feel like they belong. Right? They are not going to be persecuted or antagonized or talked down upon if they speak up or if they say something that the boss maybe doesn't want to hear. So we're going to talk about leadership action you can take right now to create inclusive culture in your command or uh, company. And again, I do believe that diversity has a financial impact right on your organization, and it really helps with the effectiveness and the high performance of your team. Okay, so if you have a question for me, please make sure to type it in the comment. One thing I want to hear from you from the get go is where are you guys tuning from? Please type it in the comment and let me know which city, which state, or which city and which country if you're outside of the USA, since we have a global audience now. And also, as you listen to the podcast, please think about three takeaway from this episode. Right, think about one insight that you are going to be able to put in practice this week. Because to me, a lot of people have heard about leadership principles. They kind of know it in their head, but not in their heart. Right, they don't actually do it. And what I'm trying to do with this podcast is really encourage people to not just know something philosophically, but to also know it by doing it and then seeing the impact of that principle in their daily life, their career. And also, if you are open to it, if this podcast is adding value to you, please tag a colleague, your mentor, your boss, or your mentee, or a friend who should join us. And I really do appreciate that. And we are live on LinkedIn and on YouTube and Instagram as well. Okay, I'm going to have my AI agent take it from here. I think it's going to be about 25 minutes or so. But again, if you have a question for me, just type it in the comment and I'll be back in about 25 minutes. All right. Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into leading with inclusivity, how Navy officers and tech leaders can build organizations that truly value every individual. It's, um, it's about harnessing diversity as both a moral imperative and a strategic advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating to see how these leadership principles are not just theories, but real, actionable steps that blend military rigor with Silicon Valley innovation.
Right. So, one of the core ideas is that true leadership means championing respect and fairness in every single action. It's not just about lofty mission statements, it's about everyday decisions. You know, leading by example.
Indeed. Exactly. For instance, when leaders model dignity under pressure, it sends a clear message. Like when someone publicly supports transgender service members, despite backlash, it deepens the team's trust. That's not just a theoretical stance, it's lived experience.
Right. Yeah. And it's like the idea that your title gives you authority, but your character gives you responsibility. When people see you genuinely valuing every voice, they learn that inclusion starts from the top.
Absolutely. I appreciate how the guide draws on voices like Dr. John C. Maxwell. Leadership is about one life influencing another. That's such a powerful reminder that influence comes from daily actions, not just rank or position.
Absolutely. Right, and speaking of influence, there's a compelling shift from focusing solely on diversity for diversity's sake to recognizing that diversity fuels innovation. In tech, diverse teams produce more creative solutions and better code.
Yeah, but Isn't there a risk that focusing too much on diversity can sometimes lead to tokenism, like if you're just trying to tick boxes instead of truly embracing each team member's value?
Not at all, and here's why. Well, the guide really stresses that inclusivity isn't just a checkbox. It's about judging individuals by their character rather than their background, just like Martin Luther King Jr. envisioned. It's not about superficial representation. It's about creating a space for every perspective to contribute.
Right. And that connects perfectly with the idea of cultivating an inclusive culture every day. It begins with self awareness. Leaders need to reflect on their own biases. Tools like the implicit association test can help reveal those unconscious
Exactly.
shortcuts.
Yeah, it's really about asking yourself, why do I feel uncomfortable with a particular idea or person? Once you start confronting those subtle biases, you can, take corrective steps. That honesty builds trust with your entire team.
That's a key element. Then there's psychological safety. Leaders must create an environment where everyone feels it's safe to speak up without fear of retribution. Whether you're on the deck of a Navy ship or in a tech board meeting, every voice should be heard.
Yep, right. Think about it. When leaders explicitly invite feedback and even dissenting opinions, it breaks down the hierarchy. You might have a junior sailor suggesting an alternate plan or an engineer flagging a potential issue. That kind of environment truly fuels innovation.
Indeed. And building on that, the guide also emphasizes peer mentorship and allyship. Beyond just formal authority, leaders can empower each other. How do you see that playing out in the real world?
Well, let me explain. Picture this. You pair a junior team member with a senior leader from a completely different background. That cross-pollination not only breaks down silos, but also widens everyone's perspective. It nurtures empathy and generates fresh insights. Truly a force
Right, exactly.
multiplier.
Yeah, and I've seen this in both military and tech settings. When leaders sponsor employee resource groups, they're not just creating social networks, they're building active communities that influence policy and the culture at large.
Absolutely. Speaking of ERGs, the guide really highlights them as catalysts for meaningful change. They drive initiatives like inclusive holiday celebrations, unconscious bias training sessions, and even mentorship programs tailored to diverse staff.
Right. But here's a thought. Sometimes ERGs might be seen as separate from the core business objectives. How do you ensure that their contributions are integrated into the overall performance of the organization?
Great point. The guide suggests tying ERG engagement directly to performance goals. That means including DEI contributions in performance reviews and even making them part of promotion criteria. So it's not just a side note, it becomes integral to leadership accountability.
Well said. And that brings us to data and accountability. Leaders need to set clear metrics for inclusion, track diversity in leadership positions, monitor retention, and even survey team belonging.
Exactly. Yes, data drives progress. If you set measurable goals like increasing underrepresented groups in leadership over a certain period, you can hold everyone accountable. It's like treating DEI as you would any critical mission objective.
Right, totally. I love how the guide stresses that data alone isn't enough. The numbers need to translate into action. When surveys indicate a deficiency in inclusion, leaders must follow it up with concrete interventions.
Absolutely. Now, another key principle is addressing unconscious bias head on. We all have biases that we're not even aware of sometimes. The guide really encourages proactive conversations, training sessions, reflection questions, and even casual discussions that challenge assumptions.
Yeah, that's essential. And then there's the idea of compassionate listening. It's not just hearing words, it's about actively understanding someone's experience of marginalization and then, taking real steps to address
Exactly.
it.
Right. When a team member shares a personal story about feeling excluded, a leader's response should be one of empathy, not defensiveness. Ask clarifying questions, thank them for their honesty, and then work on tangible solutions.
Definitely. Switching gears for a moment, another compelling aspect of the guide is the integration of historical context. Educating teams on civil rights and military diversity history, like the desegregation of the armed forces, provides a shared foundation and underscores why these principles matter now.
Yeah, it's like connecting the dots. Exactly. It reminds leaders that while past policies might have been unjust, today's responsibility is to build an environment rooted in fairness and respect. Even when top-level policies seem beyond immediate control, your everyday actions matter. A powerful
Right
reminder.
on. Now, let's talk about the role of quotes in reinforcing these principles. Figures like Pete Buttigieg, Bruce Leslie, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. are cited to emphasize that the opposite of diversity is not integration, but uniformity, and further, that inclusion is a matter of fairness, not just a trendy initiative, but a core value.
Yes. It's really about continuously reminding ourselves and our teams that integrity and character are what defines us. When leaders embody these values, acting justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly, they set a precedent that everyone can and must
Absolutely.
follow.
And then there's the final call to action. The guide doesn't just lay out principles, it challenges every leader to reflect on how their daily decisions either move the team toward unity or away from it.
Right? That's the power of self-reflection. Yes, think of it like this. Every decision, every conversation, every moment is an opportunity to lift someone up. Whether it's speaking out against bias, supporting a colleague in need, or even checking your own assumptions, these are the building blocks of an inclusive culture.
Absolutely. Sometimes it might seem overwhelming. There's this idea that maybe one person can't change systemic issues. But the guide makes it clear your sphere of influence, no matter how small, matters. Individual actions accumulate into a powerful collective change.
Right, exactly. Exactly. For example, if you challenge a small bias in your team meeting, it sets a tone that discourages discrimination. And when many leaders do that, it transforms the entire culture of your organization over time.
True, it all adds up. One nuanced point the guide makes is on accountability. Some might argue, but isn't it risky to hold everyone to such strict metrics, especially in a high pressure environment?
That's a valid concern. Right. And here's where accountability really ties into outcomes. By setting transparent goals and integrating DEI measures into performance reviews, you create a structured feedback loop. It's like ensuring every process in a Navy mission is checked before execution. It keeps the unit running safely and efficiently.
Yeah, that analogy hits the mark. And when leaders see that, they understand that this isn't a trend. It's essential for the success of the mission, whether that's in cybersecurity or on the high seas.
Absolutely. So, to sum it up, inclusivity within leadership combines moral imperatives with strategic advantages. It's built upon respect, empathy, self-awareness, data-driven accountability, and of course, a relentless commitment to continuous learning and improvement.
Perfectly said. Indeed, and the call to action is clear. Reflect on your daily decisions, speak up when you see injustice, support your teammates, and always, always be open to learning. After all, as the guide reinforces with quotes from historical figures, leadership is about lifting people up, not just for the sake of good morals, but because it makes your work, your mission, that much stronger.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's the essence of leading with inclusivity, turning ethical values into a competitive advantage, whether you're steering a Navy unit or driving innovation in tech. Every step like this reinforces that, out of many, one, the strength of unity and respect carries us forward.
Absolutely. Thanks for this deep dive. It really leaves us with a challenge. Consider one small action you can take this week to actively support inclusivity. Sometimes it starts with just one conversation, one reflective question.
Right, exactly. Thanks for joining today. Let this be a reminder that leadership, true leadership, is measured by the dignity, empathy, and fairness we extend every day. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep leading with purpose.
Indeed, thank you.
Frequently asked questions about inclusive leadership. What is inclusive leadership, and why is it important in diverse environments like the military and tech? Inclusive leadership is a leadership philosophy and practice that prioritizes valuing and uplifting all people, all of the time, in all situations. It's about recognizing that diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, are not just ethical imperatives, but also strategic advantages. In environments like the US Navy and Silicon Valley, inclusive leadership leads to stronger, more innovative, resilient, and higher performing organizations. It fosters a culture where every individual feels respected, valued for their character and contributions, and has a voice, ultimately leading to improved morale, retention, and mission readiness. As highlighted by Coach BZ and Pete Buttigieg, the opposites of diversity, equity, and inclusion are segregation, conformity, inequity, and exclusion, underscoring why active pursuit of DEI is crucial.
Huyshal. How does a leader champion respect and fairness in daily actions? Championing respect and fairness begins with leading by example. This means consistently listening carefully, valuing input from all voices, and taking immediate action against disrespect. Leaders should model dignity even when facing criticism, articulating that every team member deserves respect regardless of identity or background. The core principle is to judge individuals by their character, performance, integrity, and teamwork, rather than by assumptions or stereotypes based on identity. Furthermore, inclusive leaders actively see and celebrate the strength in differences, encouraging diverse perspectives as a source of innovation and the fair approach to achieving the best outcomes.
What practical steps can leaders take to cultivate an inclusive culture daily? Cultivating an inclusive culture is an ongoing practice that requires several concrete actions. Leaders must first build self-awareness by reflecting on their own biases and privileges and taking corrective action when biases are recognized. Fostering psychological safety is crucial, where every person feels empowered to speak up, ask questions, and offer dissent without fear of reprisal. Encouraging peer mentorship and allyship through formal or informal groups helps individuals connect and support one another, and provides avenues for feedback to leadership. Finally, standardizing inclusive practices, such as rotating briefing leads, using inclusive language, and incorporating cultural competence into evaluations, embeds inclusion into daily routines and reinforces its non-negotiable importance.
How do leaders address unconscious bias and educate their teams effectively? Addressing unconscious bias involves recognizing and openly discussing these mental shortcuts that everyone carries. Leaders should provide training and workshops to raise awareness, using real-world scenarios to illustrate biases in hiring, assignments, and interactions. Practicing compassionate listening is key, truly hearing others' experiences of feeling marginalized without defensiveness, and taking concrete steps to address concerns. Additionally, educating the team on civil rights and the history behind diversity issues, like military desegregation, provides context. Even when facing unfavorable policies, leaders should explain them factually, stand firm on core values of respect, and empower their teams to make a difference in their immediate sphere of influence. I.e., what role do data and accountability play in driving change for diversity, equity, and inclusion? Data and accountability are essential mechanisms for successful cultural change. Leaders should set clear, measurable goals and metrics for DEI efforts, such as demographics of leadership roles, promotion rates, and climate survey scores. These metrics should be tracked transparently and progress reported regularly. Crucially, accountability must permeate the culture, meaning that individuals who violate inclusion standards are addressed promptly and transparently, while positive behaviors are publicly rewarded. Integrating DEI contributions into performance reviews and holding leaders accountable through consequential accountability significantly accelerates progress toward parity and demonstrates that DEI is a core part of the job, not optional.
How can employee resource groups, ERGs, and alliances contribute to an inclusive environment? Employee resource groups, ERGs, or affinity groups are vital change agents that leaders should actively support and empower. By providing executive sponsorship, resources, time, budget, meeting spaces, and encouraging active involvement, leaders enable ERGs to drive valuable initiatives like inclusive celebrations, training sessions, and new mentorship programs. It's important to measure their impact beyond inclusion scores, recognizing their contributions to recruitment, retention, and even policy crafting. Furthermore, fostering allyship by encouraging individuals not from underrepresented groups to participate in ERGs and providing ally training makes inclusion a collective effort, amplifying minority voices and standing up against bias.
What are some key reflection questions for leaders to promote continuous growth in inclusive leadership? An inclusive leader is committed to continuous learning and self-reflection. Key questions to consider periodically include: are we treating everyone on the team with the same respect and opportunities we'd want for ourselves or our loved ones? What assumptions might I be making about someone's abilities or motives? And what can I do to challenge those assumptions? How do I act when I witness behavior that undermines inclusion? Am I as brave as I could be in speaking up? Even if policy puts me at a disadvantage, how can I influence culture or mentor others to strengthen our community? When last did I listen to someone with very different life experience and learn from them? These questions encourage ongoing dialogue, self-assessment, and a commitment to action.
Sa patol, si beyond ethical considerations, what are the strategic advantages of fostering a diverse, equitable, and inclusive team? Beyond being a moral imperative, fostering a diverse, equitable, and inclusive team offers significant strategic advantages. Diverse teams bring a wider array of ideas and perspectives, leading to faster problem solving and greater innovation. This is described as force multiplication in military terms, enabling units to adapt quickly to unforeseen challenges. In tech, diverse engineering teams outperform homogeneous ones, producing more creative solutions and higher code quality. An inclusive culture also directly correlates with increased retention, as promising people are more likely to stay. And it helps recruit top talent who are drawn to an environment where all employees thrive. Ultimately, it enhances morale and mission readiness, making the organization better, stronger, and more effective.
Think on these things. What's truly striking about Bob Fabian Zinga's approach to leadership is not just how grounded it is in real-world experience, from the Navy's chain of command to the flat teams of Silicon Valley, but how it's also informed by timeless wisdom. In his article, Bob draws on scripture, yes, ancient texts written thousands of years ago, and reveals just how relevant they remain for leaders navigating today's chaotic and complex world. This isn't about preaching, it's about principles, unchanging truths that have guided great leaders across generations. What's powerful here is how seamlessly these insights complement everything we've explored so far. Let's walk through each of these ancient verses Bob highlights and unpack what they mean for today's leader, military or tech, startup or enterprise.
Micah 6:8, NIV. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Leadership insight. True leadership is rooted in justice, mercy, and humility. Inclusive leaders don't tolerate discrimination or exclusion. They actively seek fairness for all team members. Humility allows us to listen, learn, and grow from perspectives different than our own. Coaching. Prompt. Where in your leadership today can you intentionally act with greater justice, extend more mercy, and model humility?
Galatians 3:28, NIV. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Leadership insight. At the heart of God's design is unity in diversity. A leader's role is to foster an environment where differences are not only respected but celebrated because we are all equally valued. Coaching. Prompt. Are you creating spaces where every voice, regardless of background, feels equally valued on your team?
James 2:19, NIV. My brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, must not show favoritism. If you show favoritism, you sin and are convicted by the law as lawbreakers. Leadership insight. Favoritism undermines trust and destroys team cohesion. Great leaders resist bias even when it's unconscious and evaluate people based on their work, integrity, and character. Coaching prompt. Examine your recent decisions. Have you unintentionally favored some over others? How can you ensure fairness becomes your default practice?
Proverbs 31:8-9, NIV. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Leadership insight. Leadership requires moral courage. Inclusive leaders advocate for the marginalized and give voice to those who may fear speaking up. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity. Coaching. Prompt. Who on your team may need you to be their advocate? How can you use your influence to protect and empower them?
Acts 10:34-35, NIV. Then Peter began to speak. I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts from every nation the one who fears him and does what is right. Leadership insight. Even Peter had to overcome his cultural biases. Leaders must continually examine and expand their perspectives, allowing God to challenge long-held assumptions about others. Coaching. Prompt. Are you open to learning and changing your perspective when God reveals biases you didn't know you had?
Romans 12:10, NIV. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Leadership insight. Inclusive leadership starts with genuine love and respect. Honoring others means creating safe environments where every person can thrive professionally, emotionally, and spiritually. Coaching prompt. How are you intentionally honoring the people entrusted to your leadership today? What specific action can you take to show that honor?
So, as we wrap up today's episode of the Leadership and Success podcast with Coach BZ, we invite you to reflect. What spoke to you today? Which leadership insight will you carry into tomorrow? What are your 3 takeaways from this episode? What's one leadership insight you've just learned or been reminded of that you'll apply this week? Type it in the comments so others can grow from your insight. And tag a colleague, junior officer, or tech leader who could benefit from this episode. Join us again tomorrow right here for the next episode in this powerful leadership series. Until then, keep growing, keep leading, and as always, stay resilient.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. I have a special guest here for just a minute. I can't believe she agreed to do this. Hey, Daniela, how are you? And
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Bob.
Yeah, sorry for putting you on the spot, but you did reply back. So you are watching us today from New York, you said, right? Which is
I
really
am.
awesome. I really appreciate this because I am here every morning, usually around 6:30 a.m. California time. So I'm glad for people like you who watch and listen almost every day. Now, you don't have to, but if you are willing to, I think this is such an important subject. You may share about maybe a personal experience just about diversity, being black, being a woman in America, or any of the takeaway or insight from this podcast, or really in anything you want to do. I thought it would be kind of cool if I could bring someone from the audience to just come and share, ask question, or just comment. So the floor is yours.
Sure. So, my name is Daniela. Thanks for having me. And I think DI is really important, not from the stance of, giving people things because they are different, but giving people a chance. So I believe diversity, equity, and inclusion are really essential to building true resilience. And that's the line of work that I'm in, business continuity, emergency management. And so I'm looking at situations of crisis and disaster and
Mhm.
trying to fix it essentially. So in my work, DEI is not a side initiative. It's really a core strategy that ensures that all voices are heard, that resources are accessible, and solutions are culturally informed. So I've worked in the US, I've worked in the United Arab Emirates, and those are two very different cultures. But what connects all of us is that we are humans at the end of the day. So, by integrating diverse perspectives into planning and decision making, we really do strengthen our ability to respond, recover, and thrive in the face of disruption. And resilience is added stronger when no community, industry, or individual is left behind. And I think we also have to remember diversity comes in a lot of shapes and sizes
Mhm.
and presentation. So it could be age, it could be ethnicity, it could be wearing glasses. There's just a range of things that make us diverse. And that can also be a beautiful thing.
Wow, that is very, very powerful. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I mean, and I know I've already invited you to be one of the guests on the Leadership and Success podcast. Maybe we're gonna, I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but definitely would be adding a lot of value, I think, to my audience because I know right now, for politically speaking, the country is trending completely the other way. It looks like we're going back to 1933 or something, which doesn't make any sense to me. But diversity is just the right thing to do. There's nothing political about it. And it actually
Absolutely.
makes us stronger as a nation, but also even as a company. If you like money, if you love that green stuff, if you have a diverse team, you're going to be making a lot more of it. So it makes you more impactful. And also, again, it's being inclusive and having everybody, no matter who they are, where they come from, to feel included. So there is really nothing wrong, I think, you can say about that. I liked that quote from Pete Buttigieg that I added to this article, which really makes so much sense to me, right? It says the opposite of diversity is what? Uniformity. The opposite of equity is what? Inequity. And the opposite of inclusion is what? Exclusion. Is that really the kind of world you want to live in with exclusion, inequity, and uniformity? I don't think so. That's not the kind of world I want. Now, I want to share this is the Golden 13. These are the first 13 Black officers in the US Navy. This didn't happen 200 years ago. It's only happened like 80 years ago, 1944. No, just no. As an example, my father was born in 1943. So that's within a generation. Just 80 years ago, it was forbidden, impossible for somebody with my skin color to be an officer in the US Navy. Today, I am a Navy commander only 80 years after the first 13 Black people were allowed to become officers. And this guy, Admiral Samuel Gravely, one of my great mentor and heroes, first admiral, black admiral in the US Navy. This only happened like in the 70s. I was born in the 70s. So not long ago that we started seeing these positive changes in the Navy. And again, hopefully we're going to be continuing to move forward. But another one of my hero, General Colin Powell, wrote the forward for this book, like the Golden 13. And it says in this book, this is a history of our country with a vivid insight of people who have rolled up their sleeve and really lived it. And Paul has done an extraordinary job of making this recollection as vivid in print as they were in spoken word. And then toward the end, he says, when you read this book, you will burn with anger when James Eyre recounts the lynching of his brother-in-law in 1935. Again, that's only in the 1930s, not that long ago. And then he says, most of all, though, you will be reminded that none of our lives is written on a clean slate. The opportunities that come our way, the privilege we enjoy, the very direction that our lives often take, are shaped by men and women like the Golden 13 who came before us and who told to make the path a little clearer. I can definitely say, I, Bob Fabian Zinga, would not be a naval commander in the most powerful navy in the world if it wasn't for the Golden 13, for Command Power, or for Admiral Samuel Gravely. I definitely, absolutely stand on the shoulder of giants who have come before us. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Anything else you would like to share, Daniela, before we end the show?
No, thanks for bringing this timely topic up. I really appreciate your insights and really bringing it to the forefront. There's so much news, so much stuff going on. So just to have, a few moments to focus on this, real issues, real things that are happening now that will affect us immediately, I greatly appreciate it.
Good. Thank you. Thanks so much. And again, I put you on the spot. I wasn't sure you would be crazy enough to come on, but what you say really adds a lot of value. You have a very, very powerful voice. And I think part of what I'm also trying to do with this podcast is to make sure that aspiring leaders and also minorities, women, and people of color understand that they do have something to say, right? There is room at the very top for you. You don't have to be afraid or intimidated. What you think, what you feel matters. And I do see you, and I am rooting for you. I mean, not just you, Daniela, but all of the other people listening on this podcast. And I want to make sure we have some type of community or environment or platform where everybody can really speak their mind freely, creating that psychological safety where you really feel value. And I definitely love what you said. Diversity comes in a lot of shape, size, and presentation as well. Okay, thanks again, Daniela, for being so brave. I really do appreciate that. So for everybody else, I'm going to be back here tomorrow. I am here every single day in the morning. I think it's going to be probably 6:30 a.m. California time tomorrow and 9:30 Eastern time. And thanks again, Daniela. I'm going to give you the last word, and I'm going to close out the podcast.
Thank you again, and God bless everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our channels and come back for more wisdom nuggets on how you may develop into a better leader and achieve greater levels of success. Leadership is the most critical skill. The world will always need leaders to lead others, deploy the next disruptive technology, or execute a business strategy. You may as well decide on counting yourself among the 21st century leaders. See you right here next time on the Leadership and Success Podcast with Coach BZ.